Hopefully, you guys already watched the Professor Dave Explains video and you drew the graph for sine and for cosine, and then you showed the work here for tangent. You don't need to do anything except maybe just highlight or write down the other trig functions listed here. So what I'm going to do now is go through the example problems with you. And in your notes right now, this is page 14. So for question number 1, I kind of thought of x cosine x and 2 tangent x, kind of dealing with them separately. And you have to do the product rule for x cosine x. If you have just a constant in front of tangent x, you don't have to do the product rule for that. So what would happen is if we did the product rule for x cosine x, we have x times the derivative of cosine plus the derivative of x times cosine. And if you want to do that in your head, that's fine. And then we're just going to be able to pull out this 2 in front and then just take the derivative of tangent x. So in my next underneath here is going to show the answer to that. So the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x. The derivative of x is just 1. And the derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. And then now in my final answer, I just kind of simplified that a little bit. So we can rewrite this first term as negative sine x. And you can just look at the rest there. So for question number 2, these are totally separate. We don't need to do the product rule. We just basically need to take the derivative of 2 secant x and take the derivative of cosecant x. So the derivative of 2 secant x is going to be 2 secant tangent, and then minus, and the derivative of cosecant is negative cosecant cotangent. And then I'm just going to add the opposite right here. And there is our final answer for number 2. All right, number 3, what I did is I distributed first, I believe. So I kind of rewrote the original problem. Does this make sense? I distributed the e theta. So I put e theta with tangent theta, and then I distributed this e theta with regular theta. And now we are going to do the product rule here and the product rule here. So product rule for both. And kind of just take your time to make sense. Go ahead and maybe pause and write that down. But what I did was a product rule for both. And then I combined, if you notice, every single term has an e theta. So what you can do to make this kind of look prettier at the end is pull the e theta out and then put all this in parentheses. I should have had a parenthesis right there. So that's number 3. Number 4, we're going to use the quotient rule. So there is our quotient rule. And then we're going to simplify the numerator first. Okay, how did I get this? I distributed right here, and I got negative sine x, and then a negative times a negative is positive sine x squared. And then here, this is really negative cosine times negative cosine, which turns into positive cosine squared. And I don't know if you guys remember an identity, but sine squared of x and cosine squared of x, when you add them together, it just equals 1. So I can kind of rewrite this numerator as this 1 in front minus sine x. And then the denominator is 1 minus sine x squared. So we could cancel 1 minus sine x with a 1 minus sine x squared. And there is your final answer for number 4. Number 5 and 6, you're probably going to want to pause this, but I want you to finish number 5. And here's the product rule. If you have more than one product, more than one thing multiplied together, kind of makes sense. So use this product rule to help you with 5. And then number 6, look at the step-by-step directions I've given you. And I want you to try to finish 5 and 6 on your own. So hopefully that helps and it makes sense.